New Year's Day this year, people were out celebrating. People were hopeful. People were taking a look at what had happened this past year and were hoping that 2025 would be better than 2024. And over the past 4 years or so, there has been a period where there was disease, there was virus, there was contagion, there were lockdowns, there was fear, there was concern of all sorts of things that were going on. There was an announcement that science and technology could save us. While some people were looking at science and technology and going, are you going to save us, or are you the ones who brought us to this catastrophe in the very beginning? And one of the interesting things is there have been science fiction writers like Michael Crichton and others who have explored the possibility that science can be a redemptive event and a redemptive work for good, while others have taken a look at what has happened around us and have gone, what if humanity's short-sightedness and boxiness and inability to really understand what's going on around us, what if this falls short of what God has done, is doing, and will do? So in terms of this, there seemed to be a real excitement that things could be getting back to normal and things could be getting better. And on New Year's Eve this year, and I know that this isn't being published within 12 hours of these events, this is something that's taken a little bit of reflective time. But part of what has ended up happening is there were events that seemed to, in some respect, reflect a hatred of the people who were celebrating, and in other events seem to be inexplicable as to why these things are going on. And it is hard to live in a world where we look and we go, this doesn't make any sense. And in the United States of America, we have really not had a major war on our soil since the American Revolution. So that was finished in 1865, and we are now in 2024. So there is very little corporate memory of what it was like to have our own country torn up, devastated, and destroyed by the horrors of war. And if you don't mind my saying, war has gotten a whole lot more horrific than it was even in the mid-19th century. So it's a hard thing for Americans to imagine that there are people who hate us. I mean, some of the people who are my children's ages feel like if somebody doesn't act like they like them or agree with every thought that they come up with, that this is a microaggression. This is something that is offensive. This is something that is wounding. But to have people who really want to go out and cause horror and cause devastation and cause fear, and to end up taking people who are celebrating and to wreak havoc and destruction and death on people in order to create a fear in a society, I don't know that Americans have really come to a place where we are aware that this is in the heart of some peoples. And I don't think that Americans have really come to a place where we in the last 50 to 60 years have really had a place in our hearts where we understand that there is real wickedness and there is true evil. And if there is wickedness, and if there is evil, and if there are people who want to devastate and destroy and create fear and do damage and destruction to a people whom they don't know, whom they've never met, and whom they have just prejudged, then as Americans, I want to encourage you that if this can happen, we need to make sure that evil does not end up being planted in our hearts and in our minds and in our identity. If evil is capable of being done, and there are people who want to cause damage and devastation, and there's people who, because of God's kindness and graciousness, are not able to do as much damage and devastation as they desire to do, then we have to wake up. We have to be aware. We have to take this seriously. You know, there was a Cybertruck that was blown up on January 1st this year. I talk to military people, and the folks who have a background in military who I know say, this makes no sense. This shouldn't have happened. There was, in New Orleans, an electric Ford F-150 that ends up making its way around protections and drives through, and there's a person in it who is desiring to cause as much devastation and destruction as he can. But this is not the beginning. There are all sorts of things that have happened over the course of my life, and probably yours too. 9/11, multiple things happened that were evil. Since that time, there have been wars. Since that time, there have been points of great heroism, and there have been points of extraordinary incompetence. Since that time, there are military things that are happening, and some people are wondering whether they are justified or not justified, whether they are righteous or not righteous, whether we ourselves are the good guys or the bad guys. This won't all be dealt with in a short video, but I do want to encourage you to be aware that there really is evil. There really is wickedness. And the inverse or the converse of evil is righteousness. And I want to encourage those who come across this video on the internet, and I know the internet is like a fire hose. There is just so much information coming through all the time. And we'll have our 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 people who will run across some of our videos here and there. And this one probably won't be a super popular one. But understanding that there are those who want to do damage and devastation and destruction. Understanding that some of those who want to do evil are exposed for being evildoers. But some of the things that end up happening that are truly evil, some of the people involved with it end up staying in the shadows and end up not being held accountable and responsible. So whoever you are, wherever you're going, whatever you have made be, and whatever life you're going to live, it matters if you slide into evil, and it matters if you stand for righteousness. And God is looking for people who will love Him, and loving God will automatically make you more righteous. And loving God will end up causing you to react appropriately to events of evil. And none of us will end up being able to sit on the fence. And all of us will end up either identifying passively or actively with evil, or all of us will end up planting the flag for righteousness, taking a stand, and seeking to be those who stand with the love that God has for humanity. Shalom.